Hey, Lautaro, how's it going? This is Ryan with TrendLizard.com. Thanks for sending me the email. Thanks for the kind words. I had a great vacation. Glad to be back. Market's always moving, so it makes me nervous when I'm away from it. So very glad to be back. I'm going to take a look at a few stocks for you. Tonight, we're going to take a look at, line up my chart a little bit better. We're going to take a look at CCJ, which is Cameco. I think I've looked at this one before. I'm not sure if it was for you or somebody else. We're going to take a look at NACCO, I believe, NACCO. And then we're going to take a look at SQM, Sociedad Quimica Y Minera, a Chilean stock, if I'm correct there. So we're going to run through all these guys. Starting with CCJ, Cameco had some downside action in the 90s. In 2000, start of the year, gave us a very nice large five-wave advance that obviously completed in 2007, and then a very large ABC pullback. Now this retraced substantially more than 61.8% of this up leg here. If it was 61.8%, it would have stopped at the lower end of this yellow support area. It did not. It continued down. So the implication would be, to me, is that maybe this was like a third, fourth, and fifth wave. So this was like the fifth wave of a larger five-wave move. I say it all the time, but just because the stock was incepted here doesn't mean that's the beginning of some five-wave pattern. It could be anywhere in the larger time frame. So that's what we have to figure out, but that's what it looks like, maybe a fifth wave here. And then a larger pullback. Very clearly looks like a three-wave move, which is bullish, because if we're getting counter-trend downside action, even if it took 13 years or however many to play out, it's still a counter-trend downside move, and the last substantial uptrend was a trendy up move. So all those things point higher on a longer-term time frame. So once it recorded a low in 2020, prices recovered sharply. This looks like trendy price action. We'll take a closer look at that, obviously. And so far, it has retraced almost perfectly 61.8% of this down leg here. So would love to see it get through there. It already looks like an ABC move. It already looks bullish, but I think obviously the more you can get above the 61.8% retracement level, the better to just confirm that the uptrend has resumed. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this action up to 2020 low. Now I could find two ways to label this satisfactorily. It gets a little bit funky in 2021. We saw a lot of funky price action in 2021, which makes it a little bit more difficult for me to find. I'll be interested in how you labeled it. But off the 2020 low, we have a second wave. And under this labeling, I've got a third wave up here, a fourth wave down, and currently in the fifth wave. This is a possibility. Obviously, if this is correct, it's getting closer to a much more important high, because once this five-wave move completes, like when any five-wave move completes, we'd expect a larger correction. Let's look at a different way to label this move here. That would basically be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A quick ABC retraced 38.2% of this up leg and then took off to the upside. I don't like this one as much, I'll be honest with you. It feels a little bit more forced, but it's a possibility. So what it's going to boil down to is what's going on in 2022. Because if this labeling, this one here, is playing out, obviously once this fifth wave completes, we're going to see a retracement of this up leg that's pretty substantial. It'll probably retrace all of it, but if we see a substantial retracement of this up leg at any point, we'd have to be looking more at this labeling here, less at this labeling here. If this labeling is correct, we probably won't see a substantial retracement of the 2022 up leg. So to me, that's the key to determine if this five-wave move is going to extend like this or become an even larger five-wave move, or if it's something like this where we're going to complete a five-wave move, then get like a larger second wave pullback. On a larger term time frame, we're bullish either way, but obviously, you're not going to want to buy if this thing is just completing and getting ready to correct. So let's continue to zoom in, look at the 2022 up leg. Unfortunately, this is a little bit tricky. Now, you can see from these gray horizontal lines, pretty much every time it sets a high, it comes back and overlaps with that high. So there's overlap throughout this pattern, which makes it difficult to label in a super obvious. There's no super obvious labeling. There's a couple ways I came up with, but it's just hard to say when it's not that clear. Here's one possibility I have. It could be an ending diagonal. You can see the internal legs kind of look like three-wave moves. So it could be an ending diagonal because ending diagonals have three-wave internal waves within a five-wave structure. So the point is, if this begins to break down and move below 2275 at any point, obviously that's kind of far away, but that's the key level at this time. We would have to be concerned that this played out and that a much more important high is in, a la this labeling right here. The other opportunity or other possibility, once we get back there, So maybe something more like this. You kind of have to write off the ugly look of this up leg in early February, maybe a first and second, and this is just kind of some funky action within a larger advancing third wave. We'd probably have a running second wave, which makes this work kind of funky, but nevertheless, it would keep things pointing higher. So it's hard to really nail it down just because there's so much overlap in here. I think one thing that you can hang your hat on a little bit is that the pullback off of March's high looks like a counter trend move. That keeps things pointing higher for now. So I think you can be bullish on it, but obviously you have to pace yourself, because it's possible that, again, we're getting closer to the end of a 5-wave high, and it's possible that within that move we're in an ending diagonal. So the potential is there that a high could be getting closer. But I think as is, you have to remain bullish until there's a crack and a concern that CCJ has in fact put in a more important high. So let us move on now. Sorry, that was a long one. The other ones aren't much easier. They're all somewhat difficult, and so I'm glad to help with those, but it obviously takes a bunch of different angles. So let's move on to NC. NACCO is the chart, Industries. This data goes back to 1990, some back and forth action, and then what you get is a very clear ABC pullback into the 2009 low. Basically, this is the same thing the overall market did. Off the 2009 low, you get a strong up move, but there was some difficulty in labeling this move just looking at it here. So what I did is I went ahead and changed the scale from logarithmic to linear. Let's do that. I think it becomes more clear. So here's that low of that 3-wave move, and then from there, you have a little bit more clarity here. It looks like an extended first wave up, a second wave pullback, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. So then you have your 5-wave move. To be honest, it's fairly futile to even bother with this, because obviously something shifted at that high in 2019, because this guy tanked from there, moved below a 61.8%, not by much, but it moved below a little bit of this entire up leg here. So whatever happened, obviously this up leg's over. Looks trendy. This is my best labeling. Probably doesn't matter too much because of the breakdown we're seeing here. So the question then becomes, is this down leg a correction of this up leg, and has it completed to allow the uptrend to resume off of the 2020 low? Let us zoom in and see what is going on here. It does not look like it, to answer that question bluntly. When you look at the down leg off of the 2019 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, could not be much clearer. It looks very apparent to be a 5-wave move. You have this recovery that could be labeled a couple different ways. It's not super obvious, but we certainly could label it as a counter trend move, as like a B wave. So far, this move has retraced close to 61.8% of this down leg here. If it moves below 27 at any point, this is pretty clearly confirmed as a counter trend move and would point back down. This to me seems like the most likely outcome. It's hard to like this when you have such a clear trendy down move that retraced more than 61.8% of this previous up leg, and then you have this move that just isn't clearly trendy. So it's hard for me to like this guy. It's not one that I would want to own. But, we could try and massage it a little bit, for lack of a better word, and maybe say, okay, this is not a trendy move. Maybe it's like an ABC for wave A, BC, and now we have this really slow, choppy start to a trendy move. Doesn't add up to me, but I mean, that's the type of thing that we would have to latch onto if we wanted to be bullish. Let's go ahead and zoom in one more time. This up leg off of March's low has some trendy look to it. Doesn't really mean anything on any larger time frame, but say you own this guy, one way you could do it is, as long as you're getting trendy type moves to the upside, you can be bullish. A move below 33.25 at any point says you can't. You have no excuse to be bullish. I wouldn't be anyway, but if you're a holder, that's the level that I would use. Otherwise, there's no shame in getting out at some point after this up leg completes, because it's pretty hard to put money on this type of action. More likely, it's something like this, and that points to a larger pullback off the 2019 high. So there's that one. Let us go on now to SQM. This is Sociedad Quimica Y Minera. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Spoke Spanish a long time ago as a minor, but it's been a little bit, so apologies if that didn't come off very clearly. So this guy was incepted back in 1994, some up and down. Basically, off the 2001 low, you have this really nice, trendy 5-wave move. Things turned sideways for quite a stretch here. What looks like an A, B, C, a truncated C, but nevertheless, it looks like an ABC to me. And you can even see the 5-wave nature of that C-wave decline. So that all adds up pretty well to me. It retraced a little bit more than 61.8%, but it was in that vicinity. And now we're seeing this guy blast off to the upside and set new highs. Had a great week this week, up at about 5% on the week. So let's go ahead and zoom in on the action off the 2020 low. Looks bullish. This is a very sharp, trendy up leg here. And then things turned sideways for pretty much all of 2021 from January to late December. And now it's turning higher again. So my take on it is call it what it looks like. Trendy 5-wave move, counter trend ABC pullback as a second wave, and now taking off in what could be a third wave advance. So that is bullish stuff. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the 2022 action. And this action looks trendy as well. The one catch is that it could be getting closer to a high to this up leg. And obviously, if that happens, you're going to get a larger correction that corrects this 5-wave move before it continues higher. I think you have to be bullish on this guy. If it moves below 76 at any point, you know that a larger correction is coming of this up move here. As long as that move overall stays above 61, it's going to be bullish. But I think the way you play it is you're bullish until it does something wrong. Once you see a move below 76 or some type of trendy downside action, then you can consider it a larger correction that's going to play out to correct this up move. As long as that move stays above 61, you can be bullish on a longer term time frame with the expectation of this thing to continue much higher as it goes about its business. So, Lautaro, I hope that's helpful. As always, let me know if you have any questions. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. For everybody else, I hope to see you at TrendLizard.com. We do this stuff every day. Take care.